is really which is really what these proposals are about. Next slide. We also know that the housing crisis is really impacting communities of color disproportionately as compared to others. Black and Latino New Yorkers are 50% and 36% more likely to leave New York City because of housing costs as compared to white New Yorkers. And we also know that nearly 15% of Asian American households in New York City are overcrowded, which is double the city's average, right? So we know that Black, Brown, and immigrant communities are experiencing this crisis much more acutely than others. Next slide. So we also know that in across the city, the housing crisis is being felt universally, but it's also being felt differently in different places. In the Bronx, we see that 60% of Bronx residents are rent burdened, meaning that they really cannot afford their rent. In Queens, we have the most crowded neighborhoods in the city: Corona, North Corona, East Elmhurst, and Jackson Heights. I can tell you, back in 2020, when my team and I were on the ground running the city's $20 million census campaign, our team directly was conducting the census with primarily Latino communities in Corona, and I'm not kidding when I say I think we did not. The smallest household that we helped count was maybe 10 people, and routinely many households were 14 or 15. So the overcrowding issue is a big problem, which is also part of the reason why COVID-19 spread so quickly in Corona. Next slide. So affordable housing proposals 2 through 5 are going to enable us to build the housing that working class New Yorkers need faster, more affordably, and everywhere. Next slide. How are they going to do this? Okay, so I'm going to talk about proposals 2 and 3 together. I'm happy to answer questions, after the borough president gives his presentation. But essentially, proposals 2 and 3 are going to fast track 4 types of housing. Housing, number one, housing that is 100% affordable. So this are really important projects where 100% of the units are going to be affordable to New Yorkers with city subsidy. Number two, it's projects that are a minimum of 25% affordable or more in the 12 community districts across the city that have produced the least amount of housing in the last 5 years. So many of these neighborhoods are in outer reaches of the boroughs, and on average, these neighborhoods tend to be both whiter and wealthier than other neighborhoods in New York City. 2 more types. Number three, the proposal 3 will enable us to fast track the small increases in density in existing low density neighborhoods. So in neighborhoods that are already 1 to 3 family homes, maybe you could build a 1 to 4 story building, adding 5, 10, or 15 units at a much faster rate than you can today. And lastly, these proposals will fast track the addition of 30% of your existing square footage in high density neighborhoods. So what does this look like? It means if you have an 8 story building, let's say in a high density part of Queens or Brooklyn or Manhattan, you could maybe turn it into a 10 story building. Right now, for building all of this type of housing, the minimum amount of time it takes is 9 months to go from idea to approval. These proposals will shorten that amount of time from 9 months to 90 days. But very importantly, these proposals are actually what they're really going to do is get rid of sometimes what is the years-long process that is involved with a pre-negotiation with the city council to build even small amounts of housing. And the reason that that process can take years is because developers or communities don't necessarily want projects to get to the council only to have them be killed. And so they pre-negotiate a lot of these projects, which adds a lot of time and a lot of money to the process. On average, it can take 4 years and $4 million to go from idea to shovel in the ground, which is part of the reason we haven't built enough housing fast enough or more affordably enough for working New Yorkers. We can skip ahead. So let's talk about the appeals board. You know what? I'm going to just give a very brief explainer of this, and I'm going to have the borough president talk about why this matters. The borough president previously served in the council. But in short, this appeals board creates a new body that consists of the mayor, the relevant borough president, and the city council speaker that could potentially overturn a decision by the city council where affordable housing is blocked. This matters because we need to make sure that we are building as much affordable housing as quickly as possible, but I'll let the borough president talk about some of the dynamics about why this is so important and why our current system makes this really challenging. Next slide. And then the last proposal 5. Right now, you might not believe it, but our official city maps are spread across 8,000 paper maps in the topography units of our borough president's offices. Sorry, borough presidents, but we are going to turn this into one official digitized city map. We're going to bring ourselves from 1955 into 2025. Next slide. So what is the impact going to be of these proposals? Well, like I said, we are at a point where we need to build 500,000 homes very quickly to meet current demand as well as plan for the demand that is projected. The Department of City Planning projects that we will be at a population of 9 million within the next 10 years. We need to make sure that we can house those New Yorkers affordably. As you know, all of your audience are primarily working class folks, immigrant New Yorkers who have come from all over the world to build a better life for themselves and their families. And we're only going to be able to deliver on that promise if we are able to house New Yorkers affordably. And so this is really critical to our future. And what's really important about this is that the man that we all know is going to likely be the next mayor of New York City has promised that he wants to build 200,000 units of housing, most of them affordable. And there's no way we're going to be able to deliver on that promise unless we actually fix the system that currently blocks us from building housing. Next slide. We can just skip ahead. I think we can skip ahead. We're so proud to have this campaign be endorsed by some of the greatest leaders in our city. Obviously, we have Borough President Antonio Reynoso from Brooklyn. We also have a great champion for working people, New York City Comptroller Brad Lander. We have Manhattan Borough President Mark Levine, who's been a real leader on housing. And in my home borough of Queens, we have Borough President Donovan Richards. And we're lucky to have a great champion in Governor Kathy Hochul as well, who's made tackling affordability her #1 priority. She's talked about the need for us to build housing in every single part of the state, and that includes New York City. And we're really proud to say that we launched our campaign just a few weeks ago with nearly 50 organizations representing a vast diversity of people who serve our communities, homelessness service providers and advocates, supportive housing providers and advocates, organizations like Vocal New York, organizations like Homeless Services United, support for the underserved. And we are growing that coalition every single day. We've added new progressive organizations like a few Democratic clubs, but also very importantly, the Chinese American Planning Council, which signed on just this week. We are also going to be announcing a number of additional immigrant serving organizations next week, so stay tuned for that. Next slide. So what is this campaign doing? Well, we were given a very short amount of time to run a massive citywide campaign that needs to reach more than 300,000 households quickly to make sure that we can convey the message of voting yes on these proposals. And so just a few weeks ago, we launched a campaign with an overall $3 million budget that's going to reach New Yorkers exactly where they are. Digital, streaming, social media, conventional television, newspapers, radio, print. We're going to be investing in, we have already invested in many of your publications. We're going to be running campaigns in 12 different languages, right? Because we know it's really important to really reach New Yorkers in linguistically and culturally relevant ways. And so all of that work is underway. We have 2 digital ads that are up right now. And I think we're going to start to see a lot of advertising in your publications this week. These are some of our palm cards. And before I take any questions, I'm actually going to turn it over to Borough President Antonio Reynoso, and then we'll do questions after that.
Thank you so much, Ami. I appreciate the work that you're doing. Welcome to everyone. Nice to see you on here. I think this is very important in educating the folks that might not speak English in our communities and using our ethnic media to be able to communicate to a large population of folks that need to hear about this and need to be informed on exactly what's happening. Obviously, I'm supporting this movement for 2 through 5. The most important thing here is that we're in a crisis. And we talk about it all the time, but the city of New York and many people in it have been desensitized to what crisis actually means. We don't treat crisis like crisis. Would be the equivalent of someone that got hit by a car and we're putting Band-Aids on them and thinking that that's going to be enough for us to solve for this problem. We have conversations about the city of yes and the fact that it's only supposed to build 80,000 units within 15 years when we know we need at least 500,000 in 10. So we got to start addressing this issue at a crisis level. And we believe that these 4 changes, 2, 3, 4, and 5, these changes are going to help us get closer to the goal of making the city more affordable. The most important one, I think, is having less discussions about affordable housing. When we're building affordable housing, we just need to get to building it. It's what we need the most in the city. A city that is now becoming so polarized with the people that are extremely poor or people that are extremely rich, with a smaller middle class. So when it comes to affordable housing, we want to be able to build as soon as possible. And now if you want to make small adjustments to your apartment, to your house, whether it's an ADU in the backyard, whether it's a modification inside your house, we don't want you to have to spend 2 years going through bureaucracy to make minor changes in your home. We think that you should be able to move forward with that in a less stringent way in an effort to open up opportunities for smaller units in these smaller homes. Then we have the appeals board. And I talk about my time as a council member and understanding the pressure that a local elected official receives from their community relating to any housing development, whether it's 100% affordable housing or not. In many cases, these council members, because they only represent 170,000 people, don't want to jeopardize their political future over a vote for a housing complex. And a lot of people use council members that have lost their seats as examples on why they don't take risks. So because the council members don't take risks, what we end up seeing is the shutdown of many potential housing opportunities in their districts. A borough president, a speaker, and a mayor have a much larger purview or a much larger view of the crisis and can and also don't succumb to the same type of local pressures that a local council member does. So because we need to solve for this citywide crisis in a citywide way, to give us some level of insight or opportunity to influence the process, I think is very smart and addresses, again, a city-wide crisis with borough presidents and citywide elected officials, I think is the right solution. And then the maps, they're from my office. We're looking to digitize them ourselves, but we understand that the city of New York doesn't want to have any delays and believe that they can do a better job than the borough presidents at pushing these things through. But here, for the greater good, we're having a different conversation, and we're more than happy, again, to push these items, of which, by the way, we don't think gets us to where we need to be, but it helps us get there, right? This is not the end goal. A lot of people are fighting back on this, and I don't think this is enough. I never thought the city of yes is enough. The yes on affordable housing is a step in the right direction. These are all things that we're doing, layering to try to finally address our housing crisis. So I'm happy to be here, and I'm willing to take questions whenever you guys are ready.
Olivia, are we gonna figure out if there are some questions?
Yeah, I think we're gonna start with Abu. So Abu, if you wanna, I'll unmute you. Hey Abu, you're unmuted. So if you have a question, please go ahead.
Yes, hi. My name is Abu Tahir. I'm from Bangla Patrika. It's a newspaper for Bangladeshi community since 1996. And also we have a television, 24-hour TV channel called Time Television. As you know, the Bangladeshi community is one of the most growing, community in New York City. And then the affordable housing is very, very important for the community, especially in Queens. So could you please briefly tell us about exactly what you are doing for the Queens resident in Astoria, Long Island City, Jackson Heights area, Jamaica, Ozone Park area?
Yeah. So the proposals that we have are citywide proposals, so they're not going to distinguish between communities. If in Long Island City, in Astoria, in many of the places that you name, someone wants to develop 100% affordable housing, this is going to shrink the process by, I think, by like 66%. I think we make it, right now, it takes 9 months to a year to get this process done. Can we build affordable housing or at least get it approved in 3 months instead of 1 year? So the idea here is on the affordable housing front is you're not gonna have to jump through the same amount.
Yeah, go
I'm
ahead.
so sorry. You're not gonna have to jump to the same amount of hoops. So when you talk about the growing Bangladeshi community, many communities in this city are growing, but the housing options and opportunities that have are very limited. We actually have a Bangladeshi community in Kensington in Brooklyn. And in that area, we're seeing the doubled and tripled up of homes. So we have one family with their children and their grandchildren in the same apartment. For that same building, through the city of Yes and now to the Yes on affordable housing, they're going to be able to make modifications to that one house to make it more amenable for a larger family, but also build new housing in and around that area so that these grandparents at this point don't have to take on the burden of providing housing for future generations. We should be able to provide that, and these initiatives will help us get there.
And also, just I would like to add something, which is in the name of affordable housing, I mean the income limit, which is I mean sky high. So the low income people, they can't take the opportunity of the affordable housing. So do you have any idea what would be the income limit to apply for affordable housing?
Yeah, so the income limits are not going to change through this process. So the city of New York has MIH, or mandatory inclusionary housing, that it takes on, which is 25% affordable housing, 20 to 25% affordable housing at around 100% AMI, 80 to 100% AMI, which is, yes, it's still very expensive for many people in New York. But those apartments, which right now for every apartment we build, we get about 80,000 applications for those apartments. For one apartment at that rate, 80,000 people apply for it. So it's the most needed housing or the most sought after housing that exists. What we're trying to say is, yeah, we can fight for more affordable housing. We want to do that for deeper affordable housing. But let's just build the affordable housing that we have in hand that 80,000 people are looking for every time one apartment comes up. So while the AMIs and the conversation about how affordable for whom and that, we're going to be able to figure that out through this. Another thing is just a supply issue. Right now, we have so many people looking for one affordable housing apartment that they're being displaced or pushed out by people with more income. It's just a supply problem. If there's one apartment available at $2,500 and there's 10,000 people looking at that apartment, the people that are never going to get access to it are people that can't afford it. So the idea here is now on the market rate side to just increase supply and to make it easier to build affordable housing when it comes in. So this is going to do both. It's going to open up the market and open up the supply while also fast tracking affordable housing projects in the city of New York.
So Abu, I wanna answer your question about some of the neighborhoods in Queens that you talked about. I think I live in Sunnyside. I'm very familiar with Astoria, Long Island City, Sunnyside, Woodside. Very familiar with Jamaica. So let's talk about how these proposals could really help spur housing construction in some of these neighborhoods. So Dutch Kills, right, which is a portion of Astoria, I'm sure you're very familiar with. It's very, very, very heavily Bangladeshi. The housing stock there is a little diverse, right? You have a lot of apartment buildings that are 5 to 7 stories, but then you have some blocks, right, that have 1 to 3 family homes. So on those blocks, for example, if you have 1 to 3 family homes in those areas, or on those blocks, I should say, these proposals will help make it faster to potentially turn parcels of land on those blocks from 1 to 2 or 3 family homes into 4-story buildings, right? So we're not talking about changing the zoning or building a huge building, but currently where there's a building that maybe has 3 units on the same parcel, there could be a building that has 6 units or 8 units, right? And so even just these types of increases in density within the existing zoning are going to be really important to helping us solve this crisis. And one of the reasons that matters so much is because when you're building, for example, these massive towers in Long Island City, right? We've seen Long Island City have just enormous amounts of growth, fastest growing neighborhood in the country. Acquiring that land, first of all, is very, very, very expensive because the land value there is very high. And building towers of that size is also very expensive, right? To build a 50-story tower takes a lot of time. There are lots of different environmental and safety standards that you need to be following about earthquake resiliency, et cetera. And of course, the labor costs are high, right? And so what ends up happening is that even, let's say, the city is investing taxpayer dollars in making, let's say, 20 or 30% of that building affordable, the distance that taxpayer dollar can travel in that building, because the overall cost of that building is so high, is much shorter. And so when we build smaller buildings in places where the land cost is lower and the construction cost is much lower, you're going to be able to take that dollar of city taxpayer subsidy and stretch it much further. And how that impacts your question about affordable for whom and the levels of affordability is if that dollar is being stretched further in these smaller constructions, those units are going to fundamentally be more affordable and be offered at a lower rate. And so that's how these two things work together. And the borough president is right. When we're voting on these charter amendments, the charter is like the constitution of the city. The charter does not have the power or authority or ability to change the actual percentages of affordability and the levels of rent in a particular building. But what it has the ability to do is establish a new set of rules that makes it easier to build, which then makes it easier for the apartments that are built to be more affordable. So I just wanted to kind of lay that out.
Thank you. Can I just add one of my
I
experience?
think we're going to go, we'll come back to you, Abu. We're going to go to Edwin
Okay.
and then to Ariana.
Hi, how are you? Edwin Martinez from El Diario. I just would like to know, what can you tell us about the concern that people like president, the city council president, speaker, I'm sorry, she basically is saying that this question, if voters vote yes, are going to give extra power to the next mayor or any mayor, and is going to put eventually in risk some of the decisions that the city council made in order to protect people and protect the interests of people who really wants to have affordable housing. So is that not true? It is true, can be risky. I just would like to know that.
Yeah, so one, I want to just say that we're deeply grateful for the speaker and the work that she does. And she's vehemently fighting for her constituents who are the city council members. And this is something that's going to take away some of their influence on this process. But what I would say is that this process is still the exact same process. It would still go through community board and it would still go through the city council. The appeals board, once it reaches them, has no authority to modify any of the agreements made through the city council. We just can vote an up and down vote. We're not allowed to renegotiate, to do more, to do less. This is about having a conversation about what the council member and the city council agreed to and whether or not we think it was unjust or unfair for them to vote it down. But that only happens if they vote no. So the goal here is that it never needs to come to us, ever. They just need to negotiate like hell, fight for their communities, and get what they want so that it never needs to come to an appeals board because they're voting no. And Andres, I want to make sure that you know that when we talk about this, there are many housing opportunities that never even see the light of day because a council member shuts it down. So we have districts in Brooklyn in which a developer comes and says, hey, we want to build this 10-unit building. And they tell that to a council member, and the council member says, don't even start the process because I'm going to vote no. So you don't even see those. They're not even on the ledger. These council members are telling people no before they can even start the process. And what's happening now is that developer or that landowner is going to be able to come through and say, I'm going to start the process. I'm going to make my case to the city council. If the council member does not want it, then I got an opportunity to showcase it to people that have the interest of a borough-wide and citywide vision and whether or not it's worth it. Because what we really want to challenge is not the 80% of the city council that does their job really well and builds a ton of affordable housing. But there are some places in Brooklyn, and I will name them, in Sheepshead Bay, Canarsie, Bay Ridge. These are areas that build no housing since 1968, and we are in a housing crisis. It is unacceptable, and those elected officials have to be held accountable for not contributing to the greater good. Through this process, what's actually going to happen is we believe they're going to be motivated to get to a yes. I want to say that hopefully in this process, it never comes to us because the council members are doing their job, applications are starting to come in, and they're not stopping something before it even starts. So I want to just push back on this idea that if the mayor or the borough president want to move something forward, that it wouldn't have the interests of the communities in mind. We are also elected officials. We are not bureaucrats. We are not technocrats from DCP. We are elected officials that are going to be held accountable by constituents the same way they are.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I'm going to go to the Amsterdam News.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Ariama with the Amsterdam News. Hi, guys.
Hi.
I wanted to ask for argument's sake, let's say the incoming, mayor, for whatever reason, is just all things against Eric Adams and doesn't support the ballot measures or is slow to implement them in the city of Yes. What's the pathway forward for building affordable housing then? And my second question was just, I was just curious if you guys had any opinions about Prop 1 with the environmental issue and Prop 6 with voter participation being affected.
Yeah. So this is Ariama, this is a charter revision. The mayor doesn't get to decide whether or not he wants to slow play these proposals. As soon as it is implemented or as soon as it goes up to vote, if a council member says no to a project or the city council votes down a project, it will trigger the appeals board immediately. So whether they want to push it or not is not up to them. Now, look, if the mayor doesn't want to build any affordable housing and the speaker agrees, then no affordable housing is going to be built. And that's the realities of what we face right now. A city council member could stop all housing from being developed in their community. This is going to give it another layer for us to be able to push back. But if a mayor agrees with a city council member or the speaker, then it'll just move to, the process will stop the same way it was stopped before. So I guess what I'm saying there is that the mayor hasn't gained any power to stop something. The only thing the mayor is gaining power on is to push something. So we could always move it forward. We can never go back. So nothing is lost in this process. And then ballots 1 and 6, I think that's Ariama, I would love to speak to you for another day on those issues, but because they're less housing related, we haven't made an opinion on those publicly.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Mr. Hussein, please feel free to ask your question.
Thank you very much. My name is Manzoor Hussain, and I work for Pakistani newspaper and TV channel, but I work for all New Yorkers as a journalist. Nice to see Amit Bagai as well. My question is that it's very good that affordable housing cities officials are doing their best on this initiative, I believe. But what do you think it's affordable time? There should be an affordable time framework for this affordable housing because it takes years for New Yorkers to be approved for this apartment or affordable housing. And Antonio Reynoso was talking about 80,000, I think 80,000 New Yorkers. One of them, they get they are being approved or if we are talking about ratio. And what's the ratio for Pakistani, Bangladeshi, and Asian descent people who are part or getting approved from these, getting benefit by this affordable housing, please? Thank you.
I want to just clarify the 80,000 is the projected units that would come about because of the city of Yes. And that has already been voted on, the city of Yes. And the projected amount of units is 80,000. I was using that as a reference to put into perspective the amount of housing we need and how far away we are. We're talking about 80,000 units when we need to build 500,000 units in 10 years. So we have such a gap in the amount of units that we need to build just to meet demand. So this city is going to continue to become more and more and more unaffordable when we, with the when we build less and less. So I was just using the city of Yes as an example. On best case scenario, in 15 years, 80,000 units would be built there. So I just use that as a perspective. It has nothing to do with this. And then in Brooklyn, and I just want to be clear, in Brooklyn, where we see, you talked about the Pakistani and the Bangladeshi community, where they live in mostly smaller zoned districts. So we're talking about homes where it's like less than 6 stories, mostly 1 and 2 and 3 family homes. And what we're gonna do is, like, let's say you want to take the attic in your house and you want to convert it into an apartment or a studio. Right now, the city of New York allows you to do that, but you have to jump through many hoops to get something like that done. What we're gonna tell the homeowner is we can make that a lot easier, because we want you to get to building that apartment as soon as possible so that you can house a family in there to help us with the crisis. So in the places that we have a large, like a large South Asian community, we're going to be able to start addressing that much faster in those homes, if they own them or not. So because it's very hard. I want to be clear that Brooklyn is very diverse across the board, and I don't want to make it so that, you know, the Bangladeshi or the Pakistani community live only in one part of the borough. They live in Coney Island. They also live in Bay Ridge. We talked about Kensington already, but all these areas are low density areas that are going to get an opportunity to build 1 or 2 units in these single and 2 family homes through this process. And that has nothing to do with the affordable housing. The affordable housing that will come, that if in Coney Island, there is a 10-story building for 100% affordable housing, that one is not going to see any of this stuff. It's just going to get built immediately. And the faster it gets built, the faster people get opportunities to win through this lottery system. So we're actually going to hopefully unlock lottery apartments much faster to make them less of a lottery and more of what we want it to be, which is fulfilling a need in the city.
Thank you. Thank you.
मंजूर साहब, जो आपने सवाल पूछा है, देखो प्रॉब्लम ये है कि हमारे पास इस वक्त कोई सप्लाई भी नहीं है। अगर देखा जाए तो 100 अपार्टमेंट्स में से सिर्फ एक ही अवेलेबल होता है रेंट के लिए। तो हमें ना ये जो सप्लाई का मामला है वो उस मामले को देखना है कि हम कैसे ज़्यादा बिल्डिंग्स, ज़्यादा अपार्टमेंट्स बिल्ड कर सकें। और ये जो प्रपोजल्स हैं, जैसे बरो प्रेसिडेंट ने कहा है, ये प्रपोजल्स फास्ट ट्रैक करेंगे कि हम और हाउसिंग जल्दी बिल्ड कर सकते हैं। तो उस अनुसार से जो हाउसिंग अभी बहुत मुश्किल से मिलती है वो ज़्यादा अवेलेबल हो जाएगी।
तो 115 बिलियन डॉलर में से कितने पैसे अफोर्डेबल हाउसिंग पे लग रहे हैं?
वो साल पे साल बदलता है। मैं आपको नंबर मैं देख सकता हूँ और आपको नंबर बता।
थैंक यू वेरी मच। बहुत शुक्रिया।
I just want to see if any other outlets had questions before we go back to Abu's follow-up question. Okay. Abu, back to you for your follow-up question.
Okay, so my follow-up question is, as you mentioned about Kensington, just two things. One, is there anything in Brooklyn where the Bangladeshis and South Asian living, like Kensington, the zoning? Is there any plan to change the zoning?
So that would be so these initiatives don't dictate any of that. So if the city of New York or the mayor wanted to go through a rezoning of Kensington, for example, that would be their right, the same way Bloomberg did it, the same way de Blasio did it. They could initiate that the same exact way, nothing would change. And then I think Kensington is represented by like Shahana Hanif, or part of it by Shahana Hanif.
Yes.
Shahana would get an opportunity to dictate the outcomes of what that rezoning looks like. But let's say they work through that for 2 years, Abu, they work on it for 2 years, and the council member says, okay, I don't like it anymore, I don't want it, and she kills it, we're still able to review it as a borough president, as the mayor, and as the speaker. But this has nothing to do with whether or not we initiate rezonings. That won't change it. All we're doing is that if a rezoning isn't initiated, it is started, and a council member says no to it, we get to look at it again. but we have no idea if there's going to be a rezoning in Kensington, or if even anyone asked, or if the council members is interested. We don't dictate that. These will not dictate. They won't change that at all. That process will stay the same. Rezoning of neighborhoods will stay the same.
All right. Okay. And then also, I would like to ask another thing, which you guys can add in your proposal, that the people who are living, say, about the zoning where all the affordable housing are building up, say, like, as you mentioned in Bay Ridge, Long Island City, Astoria, Catskill, Sunnyside, in that area. And I had, it's been a long time I'm working as a press, and then I have a very touchy experience with lots of families which they are living, say about Long Island City. They are living might be 30 years, 35 years with their family. They came as a single, and now their kids, grown up in that area, and they can't afford anymore the affordable housing because it's very expensive. Affordable housing, the income limit start like 60,000 or 70,000, and then it's not certain, and their income might be 40,000 or 35 or $40,000. So is there anything you can add that people who are living in specific area, like certain years, like 25 years or 30 years with their kids, they will have a special part, like 5% or 2% opportunity to get the apartment, something
So
like
Abu,
this.
a couple of things. The first one is these we can't modify these. So these are done by a commission, and they give
Yeah.
us they just give us the proposals, and we either vote yes or no. We can't modify them. We can't add. We don't have that power. The commission does. So that's the first thing. But the second thing is what you're asking for is that if a rezoning happens in your community, that the council members negotiate for a lower AMI so that people that have been living there a long time can stay in their neighborhoods. That will not change, Abu. Like they're still going to be able to fight for the lowest affordable housing numbers they can possibly do it. And once they do it, let's say you're talking about Long Island City, who's the council member that you have over there?
Councilmember
It's Julie Wong.
Julie Wong, right?
So let's say Julie Wan negotiates that she's going to get the community 40% AMI, which makes it so that we get a one-bedroom apartment for like, let's say 1,200. And that is affordable, and that's what we want. Once she says yes, what this ballot measure is going to do is that the affordable housing portion of it, right, the 100% affordable housing, instead of taking a year and a half to get built or 1 year to get built, or to start getting built, it'll be 3 months, and then they can start getting to work. So what we're saying is once negotiated, we want him to build it as fast as possible. So we can't dictate the numbers, Abu, we can't do that. What we can do is speed up the process once the numbers are negotiated. So again, that's why we talk about this idea that we're not empowering council members. The council members have the same authority and the same power to negotiate these things for their community, and then we can reinforce it when the time comes.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wanted to just take a final call for questions. If anybody has any additional questions, please just unmute yourself.
And I just want to, before we close out, I just want to say that what I'm trying to implore upon, especially in ethnic media, is mostly I guess the communities that you guys represent are the places where the displacement is happening at a very high level. And a lot of these places where our communities live don't have rezonings. They're not areas that have changed significantly. And the displacement is still happening. The gentrification is still happening. And we cannot compete with people with more money. And the only way to do that is to just build more housing. Because if Joe Schmo that makes $250,000 a year has a bunch of options, he won't go to Doña Conchita or Miss Johnson's apartment because he doesn't need to go there because there's a bunch of options for him through housing supply. But right now there isn't. Right now that person is looking for an apartment and he's struggling to find one. So what he's going to do is he's going to pay more for an apartment that was before for a person that was there for 25 years, that was there for 30 years. He's going to outbid her for that apartment. And we want to change that. We want to have so many apartments in the city of New York that anybody that's looking for one can find one without threatening other people. And that doesn't happen right now. Right now, every time every single month we're seeing displacement happen, and the people that are losing are the people with less money. And that tends to be the people that we represent. So I just want to be very mindful here that I think the big fight that's happening is not about whether or not we need to solve for this problem, is about the fact that I think the city council feels threatened by a loss of power, even if that means that we can create more affordable housing, that we can create more housing. They're not willing to sacrifice that to solve for this crisis. And what I'm saying is that I am willing to do that. I think it's the right decision. It's what we need to do. So it's a real crisis. Your families are feeling with it, and we got to solve for it. And these 4 proposals are going to help us get there. All right, guys. So I want to thank you all. I mean, thank you so much. If you guys have any follow-up, you could reach out to my office. Andres, if you need a quote in Spanish, you let me know, and we can get that to you as well. But I hope
Okay.
you guys got a
Thank
different
you.
perspective and you understand
Yeah,
what
we-
we're trying. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you, Olivia.
Thank you all. Have a good day.
Thank you, Olivia. Thank you.